Chapter 5009. This is the medicine. Try it again after you take it. Xiaolon threw 2 pills to them, and they hurriedly took them. Then they circulated their internal energy. Sure enough, there was no problem. At this moment, they understood that the other party wanted to control them. They had no choice but to obey. Who are you? What do you want to do? Wenren Jian shouted. He was already very scared. This was too sudden. He wasn't prepared at all. Xiaolon walked in front of Wenren Jian and slapped his face. You talk too much. Noisy. Wenren Jian's face instantly turned red. He was the emperor. He had never been slapped like this in his entire life. When he was saved, he would definitely make this person suffer a fate worse than death. He would be slapped every day. Xiaolon, do it. Don't dawdle. They're still waiting. If you delay her treatment, Master will definitely be unhappy. Xiaoling reminded. Xiaolon took out a dagger and pulled Wenren Jian's hand. Wenren Jian was so scared that he shouted, What are you doing? What am I doing? I am cutting the tendons in your hands and feet. What else can it be? I see that you like doing these things, so I want to try it out. With that, Xiaolon cut off a section of Wenren Jian's tendons. Now, he couldn't even connect it. He couldn't use it anymore. Wenren Jian also cried out in pain. Xiaolon laughed and said, It's like a pig being slaughtered. Even if this guy is the emperor, he is still afraid of pain. Wenren Jian saw Xiaolon holding his other hand and finally begged for help. What do you want? I will give you anything. Let me go. If you talk more, I will cut off your tongue too. Xiaolan's words really scared Wenren Jian. He didn't dare to say anything more and only looked at her with pleading eyes. Xiaolon didn't show any mercy. She cut off all the tendons in Wenren Jian's hands and feet. At this moment, he was really a useless person. The 2 of you come and take care of him. He is already a useless emperor. The country can't be without a ruler for a day. Among the royal heirs that he is close to, only Princess Qin can be close to him. So, in the future, Princess Qin will handle the country's affairs for him. You have to cooperate with her. Xiaolon said, You are all close to him. The ministers will also believe you. In the future, when Princess Qin becomes the empress, all of you must earnestly assist her. Wenren Jian, who had fainted because of the pain, woke up again when he heard this. He shouted no. However, it was useless. After handing Wenren Jian over to the 2 experts, Xiaolon and Xiaoing went to look for Wenren Qin. You 2, hurry up and call for help. You must get rid of Wenren Qin. Otherwise, I will make you wish you were dead. Wenren Jian yelled at the 2 experts. The 2 of them looked at each other. Their faces flashed with ruthlessness. They didn't expect that Wenren Jian would have such a day. They had had enough. Now that they were being controlled by the mysterious woman, how could they listen to Wenren Jian? Wouldn't that be asking for their lives? Pa! A slap landed on Wenren Jian's face, and he was stunned. Shut up and don't make the 2 ladies angry. Your Majesty, you're sick, so you should have a good rest. I'll inform Princess Qin of your orders and have her help you deal with the matters of the imperial court. Just focus on recuperating and don't worry about anything. Wenren Jian fainted from anger. Wenren Qin felt like she was in a dream. She thought that she was at the end of the road. She didn't expect that 2 beautiful women would suddenly appear and help her treat her injuries. The moment the medicine was applied to the wound, she couldn't feel the pain anymore. Princess Qin, you have to get better quickly. Now that the emperor is seriously ill, you're the only one who can make decisions. Xiaolon said. Wenren Qin felt that this must be a dream. How could such a thing happen in reality? It must be that she was too desperate to have such a dream. Chapter 5010. A few days later, Wenren Qin's injuries were almost healed. She had been experiencing it for the past few days. At first, she felt like she was dreaming. Later, she realized that the dream seemed to be a little long. It was endless, and it was developing for the better. In the end, she finally understood that it was real and not a dream. She asked Xiaolon and Xiaoing, who arranged for her to come here. Both of them said that they just wanted her to recover from her injuries. When she could take control of the imperial court, the 2 of them would leave. Wenren Qin wondered if someone had come to play a trick on her. Later, she thought about it again. She was already in such a state. Who would try so hard to play a trick on her? I heard that my brother is seriously ill. Can I go and see him? Wenren knew that Wenren was definitely not just sick. There must be something else going on. Xiaolon said, Princess Qin, you can walk now. Of course, you can go and see the emperor. But don't use force for the time being. Your bones haven't healed yet. Okay. When Wenren saw Wenren, he was stunned. She had never seen Wenren in such a sorry state. The person lying on the bed, who had become as thin as a stick in just a few days, was actually the high-spirited and ruthless person who ordered people to break her tendons. Wenren and Wenren came. They glared at her fiercely and cursed viciously. They also gave all kinds of warnings and curses. Seeing that Wenren was still unmoved, Wenren became anxious. He started to say soft words, hoping that Wenren would let bygones be bygones. No matter what, they were blood-related siblings. He also promised that as long as she helped him this time, she could have whatever she wanted in the future. He would never let her marry into the imperial family or do anything she didn't like. He even promised to let Tang Wenwan and her mother go. When Wenren saw this scene, she didn't know whether she should laugh or not. It turned out that her high and mighty imperial brother, who looked down on everyone else, was no different from an ordinary person after falling into such a situation. Brother, as long as you stay sick, won't you be able to achieve all these things you said? If I treat you and make a concession, won't my fate be in your hands again? You can go back on your word tomorrow if you agree today. Do you really think I'm a 3-year-old child? As long as you stay here, I won't have to worry about anything. Isn't that better? Wenren immediately shook his head and looked at Wenren with pleading eyes. Sister, you can't do this. Sister, Imperial brother, I don't know who you've offended, but since the other party wants you to do this and can help me, I naturally want to make a comeback and no longer be controlled by others. I'm also a princess, a daughter of my father. Why should I live like a dog in front of you? No matter what Wenren said, Wenren refused to listen. Take good care of Imperial brother. Don't worry about the Imperial court. I'll take care of it for Imperial brother. Wenren saw Wenren's ferocious face. She said to him without changing her expression, Imperial brother, you should take good care of your body here. After returning to her palace, Wenren asked Xiaolon and Xiao what happened to Wenren. Xiaolon smiled and said, Nothing much. I just cut off a section of his tendons and threw it to feed the dog. Now, he can't even reconnect it. Wenren's scalp tingled when she heard that. But when she thought of what happened to her before, she still felt a little happy. Only when she experienced that kind of pain herself could she truly understand the despair at that time. Peak. Chapter 50:11. Princess Qin, take care of yourself. We can stay here for at most a month. After a month, no matter what happens to you, we will leave. While we're still here, we can still help you with whatever you need. Wenren quickly said, Okay, I will think about what to do next. She had no reason not to eat such a big cake in front of her. To be able to control power and her own fate, she was willing to suffer even if it was a little more tiring. Tanghua and the other two were sent to the Spirit Potion Valley. Lanning, these are my friends. Take good care of them. At this time, Shangqing was instructing his martial sister, Lanning, I have some things to do after leaving the valley. When I go out, seal the valley formation and don't receive any guests. Unless I come back, if I don't come back, don't come out again. When Lanning heard this, she became anxious. Senior brother, where are you going? Are you going to find Wenren? I know you're going to find her. Martial brother, Wenren is a princess. She's going to be married. Do you still want to go against Wenren and the imperial court? Lanning, I have to go. I have to see how she is now and whether she's affected by this matter. If I don't go, I won't be at ease. Martial brother, don't you think about me? Lanning, we're just martial brother and sister. You are wrong. Shangqing's determined look made Lanning speechless. She knew Shangqing's character. No matter how she persuaded him, he would not change his mind. Then go and come back early. Saving your life is more important. Lanning frowned. She glanced at Tang Wenwan and the other two. It was all because of these troublesome people. Otherwise, martial brother would not be so persistent to see Wenren. She heard that this woman was Hero Tang's daughter. She did not know martial arts and was a disaster that all martial artists fought over. Shang-Qing and Tang Wing-Wan said goodbye and left in a hurry. Since Marshall Brother arranged for you to stay, then you can stay here, Lan Ying said impatiently. She casually arranged a small courtyard for Tang Guo and the others. After arranging them, Lan Ying sent people out of the valley to ask about Shang-Qing going to the palace every day. Wenren had sealed off the news from the palace, so no one outside knew what was going on inside. However, she could not hide the news for long. She could only release the news that the emperor was ill. Wenren could help Wenren deal with the court affairs with two masters and the emperor's close attendants as witnesses. The ministers were trembling with fear every day. They were also guessing what illness Wenren had. They didn't dare to have any other thoughts. Everyone knew that Wenren was someone they couldn't afford to offend, even if Wenren was helping to look after the court. However, a month had passed, and Wenren was still dealing with the state affairs. Wenren didn't show up at all. One morning, Wenren personal attendants and two experts came to the imperial court to announce the imperial edict that the throne would be passed to Wenren. This caused an uproar among the civil and military officials. They all clamored to see Wenren. Wenren took them there, and the ministers saw Wenren, who was obsessed with refining the elixir of immortality. Only then did he realize that Wenren was not sick. He was just obsessed with the art of immortality. They wanted to refute, but when they thought of Wenren's cruelty, they didn't dare to. They continued to think about it, and found that Wenren, the cruel emperor, was refining the elixir. It seemed quite good. Wenren was a woman after all. What could she achieve in the imperial court? She might only be controlled by them. Chapter 50:12. At this moment, the ministers all agreed that this was a good decision. When Wenren ascended the throne, Wenren would no longer care about the matters of the imperial court. Then they would have more freedom. Wenren's matter went smoothly, and she was relieved. As for Wenren, who refined pills, it was just a disguise by Xiaolon. She wanted to deceive everyone and find an excuse for Wenren to give up the throne. This excuse did not arouse anyone's suspicion. Wenren saw that there was no way to salvage the situation. He howled, cursed, and cried in pain in his room all day long. Wenren ascended the throne. When Shang-Qing heard the news, he was in disbelief. Thus, he sneaked into the palace to find Wenren. That's what happened. Speaking of it, I also feel like I'm in a dream. I didn't expect that the mountain in front of me would be solved so easily. Wenren saw Shang-Qing and was very happy. This time, she really couldn't help but hug him. Shang-Qing didn't avoid it. From surprise to joy now, it was fine as long as she was fine. No matter if she was the emperor or someone else, as long as she was herself and she was fine, he would be fine too. Shang-Qing, now that I can control my own fate, I won't encounter the marriage alliance again. Wenren asked hesitantly, "Are you willing to stay here with me? I know that you are an elegant person. It's too much for you to stay in the harem. So I set up the position of state preceptor. You will be my state preceptor during the day and my imperial husband at night. How about it?" Shang-Qing didn't react. Wenren said that. She was always thinking about him. How could he bear to reject her? Of course it's good. Wenren thought of Tang Wing-Wan and her daughter. She asked again, "How are Wan and the others? Even if I am the emperor now, I still don't plan to bring them in. The palace is very complicated. Sometimes I can't protect them. Now the people of Jianghu don't know where they went. Let them stay in the valley. What do you think?" "So that's what you think. I was afraid that you would bring them back." Shang-Qing said, "Let them stay in the Medicine Valley. I've already asked Shimi to help." Upon hearing Lan Ying's name, Wenren hesitated. "I'm afraid your junior sister is going to be angry. Feelings can't be forced. I hope junior sister can understand this soon." Shang-Qing held Wenren's hand. "I will write a letter now and tell them about the situation here." "All right. Arrange for someone to send it over as fast as possible." When Lan Ying received the letter, it was already a few days later. Some time ago, she found out that Wenren had ascended the throne and became the empress. At that time, she thought it was a dream. Now that he saw Shangqing's letter, he almost broke down. What imperial advisor? What ghost imperial husband? You guys sure are comfortable. Have you ever thought of me? The letter also mentioned that Tang Wenwan and the others should stay in the Medicine Valley, which made Lanning even angrier. What right did she have to let Tang Wenwan and the others live in the Medicine Valley? Since Wenren values these people so much, wouldn't it be better for her to take care of them in the Imperial Palace? Lan Ying's expression was gloomy. She tore up the letter and didn't intend to show it to Tang Wenwan. In less than 2 days, there was another rumor that Tang Wenwan and his daughter were in the Medicine Valley. When Lanning heard that people were rushing to the Medicine Valley, she felt better. Compared to Wenren and Shi Xiao, when they heard this, they couldn't sit still, right? When Shangqing and Wenren heard this, they couldn't sit still. After hearing this, Shangqing brought people back to the Medicine Valley. Wenren couldn't leave for the time being and could only wait for news in the Imperial Palace. Chapter 5013. Before Shangqing arrived at the Medicine Valley was surrounded by people from the pugilistic world. All the roads were blocked. Lanning wasn't flustered at all. She just ordered people to report the news to Tang Wenwan and the others from time to time. If Tang Wenwan was sensible, she should leave the Medicine Valley on her own. She should know that she was a disaster and shouldn't cause trouble for the Medicine Valley. At this moment, Tang Wenwan was indeed thinking that way. Hearing that the Medicine Valley was completely surrounded, she was very sad. She knew that no matter where she went, she would only bring trouble to others. It was impossible for her to live a peaceful life. Before she came, the Medicine Valley could be considered as a paradise, and the people of the pugilistic world were a little wary of it. Take me to see Miss Lanning. I want to say goodbye to her. Tang Wenwan finally made this decision. Wenren and Shangqing helped her out of kindness. She couldn't stay here and bring trouble to the Medicine Valley. As long as she went out and left with others, the Medicine Valley would naturally be peaceful. Tang didn't say anything. Xiaolan and Xiaoying had rushed back. They were outside. This meant that the matters in the palace were almost settled. She was still waiting to be kidnapped by the next family. She couldn't stay in the Medicine Valley forever. As for Lanning, there was nothing to worry about. She was just jealous. With her actions, when Shangqing came back, his family would deal with it. She didn't need to do anything. Besides, this was someone else's territory. There was nothing wrong with them not wanting to keep them. Miss Lanning, we're here to say goodbye to you. I heard that there are many people outside. I don't want to implicate the Medicine Valley. Tang Wenwan held Tang's hand in one hand and Immerse's hand in the other. Immerse was used to this kind of busy life. He felt that it was very exciting. They were the ones who were caught, but the people who caught them seemed to be very unlucky. Even if he was beaten to death, he wouldn't believe that Tangwa wasn't involved in this matter. Unfortunately, he didn't see anything. He only knew that there was something wrong with Tangwa. This little girl had hidden it too deeply. Since Miss Tang understands, I won't keep you. There's simply too many people outside. The entire Jianghu is eyeing them covetously. I can't sacrifice the Medicine Valley to protect you. Tang Wenwan was not a fool. From the first day, she felt that Lanning was rejecting her. Previously, because no one knew that she was in the Medicine Valley, she thought that she could endure and live a peaceful life. Now that he had been found out, there was no point in staying here. Tang Wenwan led Tangwa and Immerse out of the Medicine Valley. As expected, when they reached the entrance of the Medicinal Valley, they saw that it was filled with people outside. Tang Wenwan didn't move forward but stood still. She gathered her emotions before saying, "Please be magnanimous and don't implicate the Medicine Valley. I'll be leaving the Medicine Valley today, but I don't know who I'll be leaving with. I don't know if everyone has discussed it yet." Immerse. Why did these words sound so weird to him? My Sun family is here. Miss Tang, please come with me. A middle-aged man stood out. Of all the people here, only my Sun family has a big business. It's not a problem to raise a few more people. Master Sun, you're wrong. My Li family village is not inferior to your Sun family. Even the imperial court wants to buy horses from my Li family village. Does your Sun family have horses? Miss Tang, you'd better come with me. If you go to my Li family village, I guarantee that you won't be mistreated. Chapter 5014. Miss Tang, actually, Xianling sect is not bad. Snow blowing sect is not bad. Why don't you come to my sect? The other sects all wanted Tang Wenwan to go to their sect. Tang Wenwan said reluctantly. Everyone, there's only one Tang Wenwan, and I can't choose one right now. Why don't you all discuss where I should go, so that I don't know what to choose? Perhaps it was because Tang Wenwan had been raped so many times that she gradually calmed down. But now, she was starting to take over. Didn't these people like to fight over her? It would be best if they could hold a martial arts competition and kill each other. Tang Wenwan's gentle face actually hid a little bit of coldness. She tightly held the two children next to her, silently waiting for these people to fight each other. Tang could sense Tang Wenwan's plan. Her mother's body was delicate and weak, and she was not a delicate person. She just didn't know martial arts, and because of her daughter, she had to compromise on many things. After being caught so many times, she had gained some experience and was planning to sow discord in the martial arts world. She liked this kind of personality. She had already checked Tang Wenwan's pulse. Tang Wenwan's body was called Tian Lu, which meant that she was born unable to practice martial arts. Because even if she stuffed those things into her body, they would still leak out. Otherwise, when Hero Tang died, he could directly use his internal energy to help her. Even if she was not a martial arts master, she would still be able to protect herself. But for someone with a body like Tian Lu, even if he used his internal energy, it would still leak out. Tang Wenwan probably inherited this body from her grandmother. In other words, not only was she unable to practice martial arts, but she was also weak and had a short lifespan. Tang also had no way to fix Tian Lu's body, unless she was in a world where people could practice martial arts. She had medicine in her hand, but Tang Wenwan might not be able to withstand it. She might explode and die before she could fix it. Although she couldn't fix Tian Lu's body, she could still help Tang Wenwan's body and prolong her life. In addition, just because Tian Lu's body couldn't practice martial arts, it didn't mean they couldn't learn from her. For example, it would be good for them to learn how to make poisons. Now she was trying to find a way to give Tang Wenwan's poison scripture. With Tang Wenwan's brain, she could definitely learn it. She just couldn't learn martial arts. She was outstanding in all aspects. Everyone, have you decided where I should go? At this time, Tang Wenwan had more confidence. If you don't understand, I want to find a place to stay first. When you think about it, I will go with you. After that, Tang Wenwan took Tang Gua to the carriage. She planned to find a place to live for a while. Since so many people knew that she was here, why not lure more people over and let them fight until their heads bled? While Tang Wenwan was thinking, the others fell into silence and looked at each other. They were not used to Tang Wenwan being so cooperative. Don't stop me. I'm just a weak woman with 2 children. Where can I run to? It was getting late, and I had to find a place to rest, so I went to the nearest town. If you don't feel at ease, just arrange for 2 people to keep an eye on it. Then, Tang Wenwan asked the coachman to drive. No one stopped them. Those people really arranged for people to follow them. Tang Wenwan calmed down. She was about to take a rest, but the carriage suddenly tilted forward and stopped. The coachman's voice came, "Miss Tang, a large group of people is blocking our way." Tang Wenwan had no choice but to lift the curtain of the carriage and saw a tall figure sitting on a horse. His clothes showed that he was not a Walleen man. "Miss Tang, my name is Abe, the little prince of Serbia. I heard that you were in some danger, so I came to pick you up." Tang Wenwan calmed down. "Have you discussed it with those Walleen heroes? If not, you can go and discuss it with them first. I, Abe, want to invite Miss Tang back. No one dares to stop me." The little prince of Serbia looked at the group of Walleen people behind him arrogantly. "If anyone dares to stop me, come here." Tang Wenwan clenched her hands. It was great that they were going to fight. Chapter 5015. Guer, don't be afraid. Tang Wenwan thought that Tang Guo would be afraid, so she held her tightly in her arms and comforted Immerse. "They won't do anything to us. Let them negotiate." Tang Guo felt that her mother had turned evil. It was clearly the most gentle tone, but the words that came out of his mouth gave people a chill. Thinking about it carefully, it was a little scary, and these greedy Walleen people didn't notice it at all. In their eyes, Tang Wing-Wan was a person who didn't know martial arts. She was just a fish on the chopping board. Tangwa and Tang Wing-Wan were right. Seeing that Abe was going to take Tang Wing-Wan away, the Wulin people quickly surrounded them. Abe wasn't afraid at all. He didn't even get off the horse. He was much taller than the Wulin people. Sitting on the horse, he did look like a fierce tiger. Friends of the Wulin of the Central Plains, I'm here to invite Miss Tang to Sarah. Why are you stopping me? Prince Abe, Miss Tang is a member of the Wulin of the Central Plains. Do you think she'll go just because you want her to? You're bullying a weak woman. What kind of hero are you? Abe laughed. You don't have to hide what you're thinking. Today, I must invite Miss Tang back. What can you do to me? If you insist on stopping me, then ask the warriors around me first. As soon as Abe finished speaking, 7 or 8 warriors immediately stood in front of these Wulin people. Let's not talk nonsense. Let's have a competition. If anyone can defeat the warriors of Sarah, I'll leave the Central Plains today and go back to Sarah. The Wulin people looked at each other and finally decided to fight. Let's fight. The sound of fighting came from outside. Tangwa could see a smile on Tang Wing-Wan's face. She even lifted the curtain to peek from time to time. Mother, will Prince Abe or those Wulin people win? Tangwa asked. In fact, she already knew. She just wanted to find a topic to talk about. Tang Wing-Wan said, if the Wulin people only fight today, Prince Abe will definitely win. Tang Wing-Wan was still a little worried when she thought of being taken to Sarah. However, she was already used to this kind of rush. What worried her the most was still Tangwa. However, these few experiences gave her some hope in her heart. It seemed that these people with evil intentions were not impossible to resist. They still had enemies. She was looking forward to seeing the little prince of the kingdom of Sel meet his destined enemy. Doesn't that mean we have to follow them to Serbia? Tang Wing-Wan hugged Tangwa and patted her back. Are you afraid? With Mother here, I'm not afraid. I'm only afraid that Mother's body won't be able to take it. Tang Wing-Wan quickly said, Nyang's body is not so delicate. It's much better recently. She didn't know why, but even though she was constantly on the move, her body was still much better than before. Could it be that her mood had changed recently? She thought that since there was no way to escape from all of this and live a peaceful life in hiding, it would be better to let these people become chaotic. It would be best if they all killed each other. Tangwa didn't say anything else. She listened carefully to the movements outside. If there were no accidents, Prince Abe of Sarah would win. Then the 3 of them would follow him to Sarah. Tangwa was thinking about what she would do after going to Sarah. Chapter 50:16. The Sarah Kingdom was located on the grassland. It was not a big country, but it had many warriors whose strength was not inferior to the masters of the Central Plains. Moreover, they were born with great strength. Many years ago, some martial arts manuals from the Central Plains were spread to their country, which made their warriors more and more powerful. Ordinary martial arts masters could only fight to a draw with their warriors. The country was rich in cattle and sheep, which they raised on the vast grassland. However, they had a great yearning for the Central Plains. They envied the diversity of species and the mountains and rivers here. They wanted to occupy a piece of land in the Central Plains and move their country there. However, due to various reasons, they had never been able to do so. In recent years, the people of the Sarah Kingdom often came to the Central Plains to observe where they could start. It was impossible to attack the Central Plains directly. In the end, they found that they could get something they wanted from the Wulin of the Central Plains. Later, they learned about Tang Wing-Wan. They wanted the martial arts manuals and the gold and silver left by Master Tang. With the gold and silver, it would be easier for them to occupy a new territory and establish a country. In a short time, Tangwa had already thought of what to do in the Sarah Kingdom. She was sure that this method would make the people of the Sarah Kingdom have no time to care about the Central Plains. 2 hours later, Abe's voice interrupted Tangwa's thoughts. You've seen the warriors of the Sarah Kingdom. It seems that there is still a big gap between you. I know that the martial arts masters of the Central Plains didn't show up today, but a loss is a loss. I'm going to take Miss Tang away. Tangwa lifted the curtain a little and saw the pale faces of the martial artists who had been beaten to the point of vomiting blood. There were also a few who seemed to have suffered great injuries and were covered in blood. It was clear that the warriors of Serbia did not show any mercy. These martial artists were glaring angrily at Abu, who was on the horse. "Miss Tang, we can go now." Abe turned back and talked to Tang Wengwan outside the carriage. Tang Wengwan replied, "Okay." She was prepared for this result and was not afraid at all. She didn't care where she went, as long as her daughter was safe. Tang Wengwan was weak and fell asleep not long after the carriage started. Tang Wu leaned against Tang Wengwan and looked into Imo Xian's eyes. Imo Xian blinked at her and moved directly to her side. He whispered in her ear, "Why aren't you afraid?" "Why should I be afraid?" Imo Xian said, "We're on the way to the Sarah Kingdom. Maybe we can't come back in the future. Besides, do you know some customs of the Sarah Kingdom?" "I don't." "Do you know?" "Of course I know," Imo Xian said in a low voice. "I heard that there's a horrible custom in Serbia. Their women have to marry their brothers at the same time." Tang Wu remembered this. The storyline only mentioned a little bit about it. It wasn't strange for small countries to have such customs. They have very few women's Sarah Kingdom, Xians. Imo Xian continued. After they get married, those women will keep giving birth to children, one a year. Imo was his kingdom's Sarah Kingdom. The ones who were brought back by Abu were probably the wives of Abu and his brothers. I don't think I need to say more. You should know what happened. Chapter 5017. Tang Wu frowned. Of course, she wouldn't allow such a thing to happen, but she felt uncomfortable because of Tang Wengwan's experience in the Sarah state. Tang Wengwan was so miserable. In the original plot, Tang Wengwan survived so many things because he didn't want the original owner to lose his mother. So we have to find a way not to go to the Sarah state. Speaking of this, Imo Xian's little face was full of seriousness, and then he clenched his fists and waved them hard. "My parents are so unreliable. I left so many marks, but they didn't see any of them. I don't know what they are doing. They lost their son. Don't they care about him? I'm beginning to suspect that I was picked up from the streets and not my own. Don't they care about their son? It's so annoying." Imo Xian saw that Tang Wu was deep in thought and thought that what he said scared her, so he quickly patted her on the shoulder to comfort her. "I will try my best to help you escape." Tang Wu was pulled back to reality. Seeing Imo Xian's serious look, she patted him on the head and said, "What can you do with such a small body? Don't look down on me. I also know Kung Fu." Imo Xian was anxious. "Anyway, I will find a way to prevent Aunt Tang from experiencing that kind of thing. Come on, you are too young to help. I believe that my mother will be blessed by God. She has been unlucky for so long, and now she is going to be lucky." Tang Wu said with a smile, "Believe it or not, my mother's trip to the Serb Kingdom this time will definitely turn misfortune into blessing and nothing will happen to her." "I believe it," Imo Xian said without hesitation. Tang Wu was surprised. "You believe me so much." "Of course I believe you. Do you think I'm a fool?" Imo Xian came to Tang Wu and stared at her with bright eyes. "Little girl, how can you lie to me? You must have some tricks up your sleeve. By the way, did you have any adventure? Otherwise, whoever catches you will be unlucky. Look, Tower Lord Qian of the Seamless Tower captured the two of you, but he was defeated. The Seamless Tower directly replaced him. Now, we don't even know if Sheng Feng is alive or dead. As for that Emperor Wen Renjian, outsiders say that he passed the throne to Princess Qin because he was addicted to alchemy. This kind of nonsense is just to deceive children. Wen Renjian didn't look like a person who would give up power. How would he give up the throne? There must be a trap. Although I don't know what happened, Wen Renjian must be in trouble. Previously, the martial artist wanted to snatch us away, but little Prince Abe sent us over. He beat them up until they spat out blood, but they didn't dare to get angry. I'm really looking forward to what will happen after we go to Serbia." Imo Xian rubbed his face and exhaled. "Speaking of which, I'm starting to worry about Serbia. Tang Wu, are you imagining things? Have you been eating too well lately?" Keep pretending, keep pretending. It's fine if you don't want to admit it. Something must have happened in Serbia. I believe in my intuition." Imo Xian had a look of "don't lie to a child" on his face, making Tang Wu speechless. This child is really good at imagining things. He can really think of everything. Hey, can you tell me what's going on? Mo Ling handed a piece of crisp candy to Tangua's mouth. I'll serve you to eat, so you can tell me. Tangua opened her mouth and ate the crisp candy. It was quite delicious. She turned her eyes and pointed at her legs. My legs are sore. Let me massage them first. Chapter 50:18. Mo Sien rolled his eyes, but he still quickly massaged her legs. Is it comfortable? It's very comfortable. Use more strength. Mo Sien, what about now? Maintain this strength. Then tell me. I promise I won't tell anyone else. Mo Sien whispered. I'm tight-lipped. Even if others beat me to death, I won't say a word. Tangua crossed her arms and looked at Mo Sien massaging her legs. She smiled slightly. I did have a fortuitous encounter. What kind of encounter? It was when I was at Carefree Mountain Villa. One day, I was playing alone at the back of the mountain. Suddenly, an old man with a white beard appeared. System, bluff, bluff, bluff as much as you can. Hurry up and bluff this kid. And then? Mo Sien asked anxiously. Mo Sien's expression made Tangua laugh. She held back her laughter and continued. The old man said that what happened to my mother, and I was pitiful. He was the mountain god behind Carefree Mountain Villa. It was my mother and I who alarmed him. He couldn't bear to see what happened, so he gave me his blessing. His blessing. Mo Sien's eyes widened. Were there really immortals in this world? The old man said that he would give me a blessing to turn misfortune into luck. No matter what bad things happen in the future, I would be able to turn misfortune into luck and be safe. Tangua said this with a serious face. She found that Mo Sien seemed to believe her. She couldn't help but laugh. And then, Mo Sien asked anxiously. Tangua cleared her throat. Then the mountain god disappeared. Then, 2 days later, Carefree Mountain Villa's eternal boat disappeared. You know about this, right? I suspected that he bullied my mother. The mountain god couldn't stand it, so he took him away. Mo Sien didn't want to believe it, but ever since eternal boat disappeared, it hadn't appeared again. Could it be that there really were immortals in this world, and eternal boat was taken away by the mountain god? Other than this explanation, there didn't seem to be any other explanation. Eternal Boat was one of the best in the martial arts world. Not many people dare to provoke him. He thought that no one in the martial arts world could make Eternal Boat disappear without anyone noticing. Then, my mother and I were taken to Seamless Tower by a Shang Feng. You know what happened after that? Grandpa Mountain God gave me his blessing to be able to turn misfortunes into blessings every time. That is why I'm not afraid. Mo Sien was taken aback by her words. If there's a chance, can I go back to Carefree Villa with you and visit Grandpa Mountain God? Of course, that's not a problem. But you have to massage my legs properly. Once it's comfortable, I'll introduce you. Mo Sien massaged Tangua's legs seriously. As long as I can see Grandpa Mountain God, it's okay for me to massage your legs. Prince Abe, could the two children be telling the truth? Although Tangua and Mo Sien's voices were low, it couldn't be hidden from people who practice martial arts. Therefore, Abe and his subordinates could hear the voices in the carriage. Moreover, Abe was riding beside the carriage. Abe said with disdain, "You believe the words of a child?" The disappearance of the Eternal Ark was mostly due to him. The master of the Seamless Tower had been defeated by someone else. As for the Emperor, it's not like you haven't seen the struggles of the royal family. It's most likely Wan Rin Shin's doing. Everything is just a coincidence. Abe didn't believe in Grandpa Mountain God. If there was, would the mother and daughter be invited back by him? However, Mo Sien was fooled by Tangua. His eyes were filled with envy as he looked at Tangua. How could Grandpa Mountain God like this little girl? He didn't know if a smart child like him could be liked. Chapter 50:19. After 2 months of traveling, Tangua and the others finally arrived at the grassland. They would arrive at the base camp of Serbia in 1 day. Because of Tangua's help, Tang Wanwan didn't show any symptoms of discomfort. A day later, Tangua and the others arrived at the base camp of Serbia. She also saw that there were so many cows. Standing outside the tent, she enjoyed the scenery of cows and sheep eating grass. Such scenery was rare. Soon, This place would become a scene of thousands of cows and sheep galloping. On the first day of Tang Wenwan's arrival, she was informed by Abe that Abe and his two brothers were going to marry her. In their opinion, as long as they married Tang Wenwan, they could slowly dig out the things in her hands. The main reason was that Tang Wenwan's complexion was too beautiful. Everyone was infatuated with her face. It was impossible to find such a beautiful woman in Serbia. Abe and his two brothers were very happy. They were still discussing how to let Tang Wenwan give birth to beautiful children for them. Some people in Serbia were also interested in Tangwa. They were discussing which family would be lucky to have Tangwa as a beautiful little girl when she grew up. Tangwa had only been here for one day, but there were many little boys around her. They were all from Serbia. These boys' families told them that a beautiful little girl had come to the Central Plains. When she grew up in the future, it would depend on their own ability to marry her. Therefore, this group of half-grown children all came to Tangwa to show off in front of her. We three brothers are strong. We are only 10 years old now, but we are already half a head taller than our peers. When we grow up, we will definitely be taller and stronger than them. Father said that those who grow up fast will grow slower later. Look at us. Tangwa turned her head and saw the two little fat boys. The other children also introduced themselves. After that, they asked Tangwa to choose a family to play with. Looking at the situation, she had to choose. Immerse was very angry. Who do you think you are? Do you deserve to play with her? What's the use of being tall and strong? He's more like a rash and silly person. Originally, these children had not seen Immerse. Now that he had spoken, pairs of angry eyes immediately landed on him, emitting a ferocious glow. Immerse was not afraid at all. They were just some big guys. How dare they play with Tangwa? Why don't you take a look at yourself? Little skinny chicken, are you unconvinced? The three brothers, who were the tallest and strongest among them, walked up to Immerse and sneered at him. You're so skinny that even the wind can blow you away. How dare you fight with us for her? After saying that, one of them reached out to grab Immerse's collar, intending to lift him up and throw him down. Immerse could be considered to have practiced martial arts for a while. He dodged nimbly and jumped up to kick the child's face. The child was kicked to the ground. Seeing this, the other two brothers came over to help. Immerse fought with them. These children also learned martial arts, but they were not as talented as Immerse. Immerse had been taught martial arts since he was young. Although he had not practiced martial arts for a long time, his progress was very fast. In just a few moves, the three brothers were beaten until they cried out in pain. When the other children saw this, they rushed up and fought with Immerse. Tang was sat at the side, eating cheese and watching with great interest. System. Host, if you don't help, what will happen to you if you break it? I'll just fix it. System. What a pitiful child. Besides, he's good at martial arts. He may not be at a disadvantage. When children fight, as long as no one dies, the adults in Serbia will not care. They are very happy to see children fight. Chapter 50-20. It turned out that Tangwa was right. Although Immerse was much thinner than the children on the grassland, his kung fu was really good. He was now proving with practice that the bigger one was the stronger one was. Most of the children here were relatively strong, but their kung fu was much worse. Although they surrounded Immerse and attacked him. In fact, they were like a group of lambs in a wolf's den. They were beaten by Immerse in a few moves. Looking at the children on the ground, Immerse was in a good mood. He snorted at them, rubbed his hands, and then ran quickly to Tangwa. How is it? Am I good? Immerse looked as if he was asking for credit. He leaned close to Tangwa and whispered, When I grow up, I will be more powerful. In the future, we don't have to run around like this. At that time, I can protect you. Immerse felt that although Grandpa Mountain God helped, these unreasonable people would always take Tang Wenwan and her mother away. The journey was actually kind of torment. When he became strong, he would beat up those who wanted to bully them. He would not give them a chance to take them away. Immerse also seemed to have found his goal. He decided to practice more martial arts every day when he was free and strive to achieve this goal as soon as possible. He could no longer rely on his parents. He had left so many marks, but the other party did not find any of them. If he waited for them to find him, he would have been dead. As for him, he had better save himself. Anyway, his parents had always been unreliable. Who knows? They might even wish for him to get lost so that he wouldn't disturb their blissful lives. Didn't you win? Why are you sighing? Tang would notice that Immerse's originally excited expression had suddenly turned serious, and in the end, dejected. That was why she asked. Immerse sat down beside Tangwa and casually picked up a blade of grass to play with. My parents may not come to me. Do you have a bad relationship with your parents? It's not bad. Every time they go to play, they always leave me behind. They don't want me to come to this world. Otherwise, why haven't they found me after so long? I've left so many marks. I heard from Mother that your parents must have brewed medicine for you when you were young. That's why your foundation is so good. You can achieve twice the result with half the effort. This shows that your parents still value you. Since he didn't come in time, he probably didn't notice the mark. Tangwood didn't believe that Immerse's parents didn't treat him well. With Immerse's character, it was obvious that he grew up in a happy family. At the very most, his parents were a bit more affectionate. Most of the time, they preferred to spend time with just the two of them. However, this did not mean that they did not care about Immerse. I hope so. Immerse chewed on the grass and said, Anyway, I don't have much hope. I'd better save myself. I'll practice martial arts hard and strive to restore your freedom as soon as possible. Speaking of which, I really have to rely on myself. In the past, no matter what I did, I always had people by my side. Now that I've suddenly become a prisoner, I know how important it is to have a good martial arts. Good luck then. Tangwa patted Immerse on the shoulder. But before that, you should go and deal with them. Ooh. Immerse followed Tangwa's gaze and looked back. The scene in that direction really startled him. He saw a large group of children running toward him aggressively. The peak. Chapter 5021. There are more than 50 children. Can you handle them? This time, Tangwa was not sure. Although these children were not good at martial arts, they had some strength. More than 50 children could easily cause trouble for Immerse if they rushed up together. Immerse stood up fearlessly. We'll know after we fight. Why don't you step back? Immerse whispered to Tangwa. If you feel something wrong, go and call Annie Tang, or I'm afraid I'll be beaten to death by them. As the saying goes, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. I'll give you something. Wear it when you fight. Tangwa took out a pair of small boxing gloves from her cloth pocket. This is a pair of boxing gloves. You can wear it to protect your fists and relieve some of the force. Immerse took the boxing gloves and said happily, Thank you. When he got the boxing gloves, he felt that they were special. When he put them on, he was a little surprised. It was a pair of boxing gloves. Why did it feel like nothing when he put them on? This thing was not simple. He was not interested in finding out where Tangwa got them. The group of children had come over and challenged him. Immerse fought with the group of children again. He found that with the boxing gloves on, he only needed to use 30% of his strength to repel the children who attacked him. This undoubtedly increased his confidence a lot. He thought that he could defeat these children without calling for help. Tang was sat in the same place and ate with relish, watching Immerse display his invincible might. Not long after, Tang Wenwan came. The fact that Immerse was beaten by dozens of children alarmed her. She trotted over quickly, but she didn't expect to see Immerse beating the group of children who were taller than him to the ground. Around Immerse, there was a sound of wailing. The eyes of the children on the grassland were full of fear when they looked at Immerse. Immerse, seeing that Immerse was still standing, Tang Wenwan was relieved and hurried over. Are you all right? It was because Immerse was not much better. His clothes were torn, and he looked a little embarrassed, but he was much better than those children who had lost their fighting strength and were wailing on the ground. Even though Immerse was beating people up, he was also beaten up. After all, there were more than 50 people, and it was impossible for him to escape unscathed. There were still bruises on his face, but he had enjoyed the fight. These children would probably not cause trouble for him again. Annie Tang, I'm fine. Immerse answered and gave a big smile to Tangwa behind him, waving his fist at her. If it wasn't for the boxing gloves that Tangwa gave him, he might not have been able to beat these kids to the ground. He didn't know what these gloves were made of, but they were so powerful that they were comparable to divine weapons. Even Immerse was a little reluctant to return it. On his way back, he walked to Tangwa's side and whispered, "Lend me these boxing gloves for a few days. I'll return them to you later, okay? You like it?" Immerse nodded. "I like it. This is a treasure. When I use it to fight, I only need to use 30% of my usual strength. It can save me a lot of energy. Not only that, it can also reduce a lot of the opponent's strength. I fought with those brats for so long, but my fist didn't hurt at all. Immerse, you haven't forgotten that your life is mine, have you?" Immerse was puzzled, but he still said, "I haven't forgotten. Is there anything you need me to do?" "No. Since your life is mine, you're my man. These boxing gloves are mine, so I'm giving them to you as a gift to one of my own. What do you think?" Immerse came to his senses and laughed. How could he refuse? In fact, it was not so hard to accept that he had no freedom. Chapter 5022. Tangwa was not in a hurry to cause trouble. Recently, Abu and his brothers were busy preparing for the wedding. Although Serbia was small, they still attached great importance to the wedding, so it would take more than half a month to prepare. She planned to cause trouble when they held the wedding with Tangwa. Recently, she would talk to those cows, sheep, and horses to cultivate their relationship. As for Immerse, since the news that he defeated more than 50 children by himself spread, those children had been convinced and no longer caused trouble for them. Seeing that the wedding day was getting closer and closer, Tangwa's smile became less and less. Every day, Abe and his brothers would come to visit her and give her some trinkets. Seeing Tangwa's indifferent attitude, they were not angry. In their opinion, as long as they married Tangwa, everything would be fine in the future. They asked her to give birth to a few more children, and then she would have to obey. Even if it was for the sake of her children, she would have to tell them where the treasures and martial arts manuals were hidden. On the day of the wedding, Tangwa was very cooperative and dressed as a bride of Serbia. Seeing that Tangwa and Immerse were very obedient and had no intention of causing trouble, Abu only arranged 2 people to watch over her. There would be a lot of complicated things at the wedding, so Tangwa slipped out of the scene when no one was paying attention. Immerse noticed and followed her out. "I can't beat them alone." Immerse followed Tangwa and said, "Now I can only be patient. When I'm more powerful, I can take you away. I'm still a child now, so I can't do so many things." Tangwa was amused by Immerse's words. "You also know that you're a child?" Immerse blushed. "I can't help it. Growing up is not something that can be done in a day. I have to grow up slowly, right?" Yes. Tangwa held back her smile. "Whose child was this? He was so cute." Immerse said, "I know you don't want to face it. In fact, I'm also very angry. These people are really hateful. If only I had started practicing martial arts earlier. Maybe I could have changed something," Immerse said dejectedly. Tangwa pinched his face and said, "Grandpa Mountain God will bless us. Grandpa Mountain God's blessing is efficacious. He will definitely protect Mother from being bullied." Immerse did not dare to discourage Tangwa and only nodded. He wondered if Grandpa Mountain God was not acclimatized to this place. His blessings had not been fulfilled after so long. Or was it because he was too far away and this place was not under his control? That's right. Central Plains is a country in the Central Plains. The grassland had its own grassland countries. If there were mountains in the Central Plains, they would be called mountain gods. There were no mountains here, only endless grasslands. What kind of god was there? Grass deity? While Immerse was still pondering, Tangwa didn't have much time to dawdle. She took out a piccolo and played it. A beautiful melody sounded. Immerse did not disturb her. In his opinion, this song was a little sad, so he decided to let her be sad for a while. However, he did not know that this was a song for animal control. When the song was played, the horses, cows, and sheep on the grassland instantly became excited and ran madly towards the depths of the grassland. Originally, the horses, cows, and sheep on the grassland were in a free-range state. Once they ran out, no one could stop them. Even the livestock at the wedding banquet broke free from all the restraints on their bodies. They completely ignored what was happening here and ran madly outside while listening to the song for animal control, as if they were crazy. Chapter 5023. Tang Wingwan was already standing on the woolen blanket with the help of two maids. She was about to walk to the front of the Abu brothers. She didn't expect such an unforeseen event to happen. Tang Wingwan looked at the cows and sheep that were standing on both sides. They actually broke free from all their restraints and ran away. They even trampled on the prepared items. Her sad expression turned into anticipation. Could it be that she was a jinx? Wherever she went, she would bring misfortune? If that was the case, it wasn't bad. Tang Wingwan could be considered to have experienced a big scene. She was extremely calm now. The cows and sheep at the wedding site suddenly ran away like crazy. They even trampled on all kinds of items. Those that couldn't be trampled on were even knocked down. In her opinion, today's wedding couldn't continue. However, she didn't expect things to be much more serious than she thought. Not good. King, little prince, the cows, sheep, and horses suddenly went crazy. They all ran into the depths of the grassland. None of the people present were able to remain calm when they heard the news from the people outside. Livestock like cows, sheep, and horses were what they relied on to survive. If they were gone, they would have nothing left. There would be no food, no clothes, and they couldn't be used to exchange for other items in the Central Plains. The king and Abu also couldn't sit still. At this time, there was no need to get married. Men, go chase after the cows, sheep, and horses. Today's wedding is canceled. The king ordered, and all the warriors present left. Now, there was still a problem in front of them. All the horses had run away. They didn't have any mounts at all. They could only chase after them on foot. Tang Guo's animal taming song was to let the livestock go into the depths of the grassland. When they were hungry, they would stop to eat some grass. When they were full, they would continue on their way. It would take a lot of effort for these people to chase after all of them. Could it be that Grandpa Mountain God is showing his power? Immerse saw with his own eyes that the cows and sheep that were eating grass suddenly cried out and ran madly into the depths of the grassland. Needless to say, it looked really spectacular. At first, he didn't feel that something was wrong. He thought that this was normal on the grassland. Later, more and more cows, sheep, and horses were running in the same direction. It didn't look normal. What made him realize that something was wrong was that the bustling wedding venue seemed to have stopped. All the warriors of the Kingdom of Serbia came out and chased after the cows, sheep, and horses. As he chased, he shouted, "Don't let the cows, sheep, and horses run away." Like I said, Grandpa Mountain God will definitely not stand by and do nothing. System. Host, continue to fool him. Hurry up and fool this brat. Immerse agreed. It's probably because of the long journey and the fact that Grandpa Mountain Deity is not acclimatized to the place. Plus, he needs to communicate with the local deities, so he's a few days late. Now their cows, sheep, and horses have all run away. Not to mention getting married, they don't know how to live their lives if they can't get them back. Immerse said with a smile, they rely on this for a living. Without these things, their lives will be difficult. Maybe one day, I'll have to eat grass to survive. So they can't do bad things. Look, if they do bad things and anger Grandpa Mountain God won't let them go. When Tang was said this, Abe was passing by her with some people. He was about to chase after them, but he suddenly paused. He couldn't help but think of the conversation between the two children. The mountain god is angry. Chapter 5024. Was it really because of his behavior that the mountain god who protected Tang Wangwan and her daughter got angry and took away all the cattle, sheep, and horses? Such a thing had never happened on the grassland, and it couldn't have been man-made. No one had such great ability. He couldn't think of any other possibility except for God. Abu didn't dare to delay and chased after them. Now was not the time to think about other things. He had to get back the cattle, sheep, and horses they relied on for survival as soon as possible. All the warriors of the Kingdom of Serbia chased after them. Even some of the half-grown children followed them. Most of the people who stayed were women, old people, and younger children. They all looked at the place where the cattle, sheep, and horses were grazing in confusion and suddenly knelt down. God, please forgive us. God, please forgive us. In their opinion, such a strange thing must have happened because they accidentally offended the god, and the god punished them. Tang Wenwan also came to Tang Gui's side and held the two children's hands. You don't have to worry. Our crisis should be over. A day passed, and the warriors still hadn't returned. 2 days later, Abu arranged for 2 people to come back and find Tang Wenwan. The little prince said you can go. Tang Wenwan didn't want to go. I'm a weak woman. Where do you want me to go? There are no horses, no ox carts, no food, and no water. Abu's 2 men were in trouble. The little prince only asked them to let Tang Wenwan go and not hurt them. They didn't consider that Tang Wenwan couldn't walk out with the 2 children on her feet. Why don't I stay here and wait for your prince to come back? Doesn't he want to marry me? Tang Wenwan asked. The 2 warriors revealed an awkward expression. Marriage? Now everyone guessed that Prince Abu brought this woman back by force and wanted to marry her. This angered the god and made their cattle, sheep, and horses run away. I'll stay here and wait for your prince to come back, Tang Wenwan said. Wouldn't it be suicide to let her go out by herself? She would send her back the same way she was invited back. Tang Gui saw Tang Wenwan's pride and felt a little happy. Her mother had been holding back for too long. This could make her happy for so long. She might as well do something else. Tang Gui decided that she would first stop the cows, sheep, and horses. When the Abu people were disobedient, she would let them go. If he chased the cows, sheep, and horses back now, Abu might doubt his previous deduction and even want to marry her mother. Then, she would do it again and make the horses, cows, and sheep run. After making this decision, Tang Gui continued to play the animal taming song. The beast taming song wasn't an ordinary song. It could travel very far. Sure enough, a few days later, Abu brought the warriors and herded the cows, sheep, and horses back. The women who were originally gloomy also revealed joyful smiles. Abe had no intention of marrying Tang Wenwan for the time being, but he also had no intention of sending her back. A month later, Abe decided to continue with the wedding. This time, the wedding wasn't that complicated. He felt that if the wedding was held quickly, there shouldn't be any problems. Tang Gui saw that he was disobedient again, so on the day of the wedding, she repeated the same trick. The warriors of Serbia continued to chase the cows, sheep, and horses. When they came back, the women of Serbia stood up first and asked Abe to drive Tang Wenwan, an unknown person, out of their country. After 2 times of chasing the cows, sheep, and horses, Abe also understood that there was no way to take Tang Wenwan and the treasure behind her. He had to listen to everyone and decided to drive Tang Wenwan away. I want to stay in the grassland. I don't want to leave. Tang Wenwan felt that living in the grassland was not bad. She could stay away from disputes. Abe refused. Tomorrow morning, I will ask someone to send you out. Someone suggested that he kill Tang Wenwan, but he was not afraid. He was afraid that this would anger the so-called mountain god. It turned out that he was right. That night, their cows, sheep, and horses ran away again. Therefore, there was no way to send Tang Wenwan and the others back the next day. Abe. Chapter 5025. Prince, all the horses, cows, and sheep have been driven back. Abu looked very conflicted. Got it. Build the fence higher. Abu ordered again. But when he remembered that the cows, sheep, and horses had broken through the fence, he suddenly felt that no matter how high the fence was, the cows, sheep, and horses could still break through. Now he was completely sure that Tang Wenwan had something to do with the horses, cows, and sheep running away crazily. He originally thought that he had brought back a mountain of gold and silver, but now it had become a hot potato that he couldn't send away. Go and invite Miss Tang here. Abu had completely lost interest in Tang Wenwan. Now the entire Sarah kingdom hoped that Tang Wenwan could be sent away. Since this person came, the cows, sheep, and horses had run away several times. They were really afraid that one day they wouldn't be able to get her back. Compared to the illusory mountain of gold and silver, They cared more about what they had in their hands. Who knew where the mountain of gold and silver was, and whether they could get it? Miss Tang, what are your plans now? Tang Wingwan clearly felt that Abu was much more polite to her. Along the way, the people who led the way were a little afraid when they saw her. Obviously, the things that had happened these few times scared them. Of course, Tang Wingwan didn't know what was going on. She was a jinx who brought disaster to herself, but now it came to others. I want to stay in the grassland and live a peaceful life here. Tang Wingwan expressed her request. If she returned to the Central Plains, she would be robbed. No matter how long she could live a peaceful life, every day counted. Taking advantage of this time, she could also teach the martial arts that she had memorized to Guer. She would wait for the people from the Central Plains to find her. The corner of Abu's mouth twitched. Then I'll give you a tent and ask someone to bring you water and food every day. How about it? Thank you, Prince Abu. You're welcome. Abu smiled embarrassedly. As long as Tang Wingwan was satisfied and the mountain god didn't get angry and run away from the Sarah Kingdom's horses, cows, and sheep, everything was fine. Not everyone could get the things behind Tang Wingwan. Tangwa followed Tang Wingwan into the spacious tent. The people who had been watching them were also dismissed by Abu. Not only that, Abu also warned the people of Serbia not to disturb them if there was nothing important. If they had any requests, they should try their best to help. Everyone in Serbia knew that Tang Wingwan and the other two were blessed by the mountain god. If the mountain god was rude to them, the mountain god would be very rude to the horses and sheep of the kingdom of Sel. Thus, the three of them were finally able to live a peaceful life. Tang Wingwan finally passed on the martial arts secret book that he had memorized to Tangwa. Tangwa naturally gave him face and made rapid progress. She even memorized all the martial arts secret books. A few days ago, Immerse had been thinking that if there was anything Tangwa didn't know, he must teach her well. No matter what, he had learned it earlier than her. However, when he saw Tangwa's rapid improvement, he no longer had such thoughts. He quietly practiced martial arts every day. Tangwa's cultivation speed really scared him. He didn't dare to continue cultivating. He was afraid that he would be surpassed in no time. Tangwa didn't hide her strength at all this time. She tried her best to improve her martial arts as fast as possible. At first, Tang Wingwan only wanted Tangwa to have the ability to protect herself in the future. He didn't expect his daughter's martial arts talent to be so good. 10 days of practice was equivalent to a year of practice for others. Chapter 5026. If her father was still alive, he would be happy to see such a genius, wouldn't he? Fortunately, her father had asked her to memorize some martial arts manuals. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to find such good martial arts manuals for her daughter. When her father left, he also told her that there were mountains of gold and silver and countless martial arts manuals. With her ability, she wouldn't be able to keep them. Therefore, he didn't leave those things to her. He only asked her to memorize some martial arts manuals and pass them on to future children or juniors she thought were good. Tang Wingwan didn't expect that the martial arts manuals her father asked her to memorize actually had other secrets. It was just that the secrets were hidden so deeply that it was difficult for ordinary people to find them. After Tang Guo memorized all the martial arts manuals, she found that something was wrong. She found that there was a map in these martial arts manuals. If she guessed correctly, it was very likely to be the map of the mountains of gold and silver and those martial arts manuals. Although she knew, Tangwa didn't have any thoughts about it. Those things didn't mean much to her at all. There were cultivation methods, and she could create her own. She didn't lack these. Any one of the treasures in the system space could be compared to mountains of gold and silver. Therefore, those things should wait for the fated people to find them. When everything calmed down, she would write down these martial arts manuals so that when the future generations found them, they might find the opportunity in them. Time passed in a flash, and a year and a half passed. In other words, Tangwa and the other two had been living a peaceful life for a year and a half. Even though Tangwa was still a little girl, after more than a year of practicing martial arts, she showed amazing talent. Tang Wingwan didn't know how powerful her martial arts were now. And Tang, I don't know. Every time we fought, I felt that Sister Guo left some leeway, so I really don't know how powerful she is. Emocien's face was bitter. This was a real little pervert. His life was too bitter. He couldn't even compare to a little girl. Tang Wenwan nodded gently. I see. I don't know if Guo is a match for those martial arts masters. Her daughter was so powerful. It was like a dream. If she had known that Guo was so powerful, she would have secretly let her practice martial arts. Perhaps she could have gotten rid of those people's competition very early. Aunt Tang, you don't have to worry. Even if we can't defeat those martial arts masters, we still have Grandpa Mountain God to protect us. Tang Wenwan knew about Grandpa Mountain God. She had come back to ask Tang Guo about it after hearing what the women in Seri Kingdom were talking about. Tang Guo then told her what she had said to Emocien. Were there immortals in this world? Tang Wenwan didn't believe it first, but thinking of what had happened before, if it weren't for the mountain god's power, would they have been able to avoid these dangers so easily? Especially when the horses, cows, and sheep had run away several times. It couldn't be so coincidental. Sienna, where did Guo go? Tang Wenwan didn't see Tang Guo for a long time, so she was still a little worried. Emocien replied, most likely, they rode horses for fun. Sister Guo is very popular. The horses, cows, and sheep on the grassland seem to be raised by her. They are very close to her. It's also because of this that the people in Seri Kingdom respect us more and more. That's why we can eat and drink here for free. Tang Wenwan said, but she changed the topic again. It's our own fault for inviting us back. Who else would we eat if not them? This is the consequence of what they did. Emocien, he remembered that Aunt Tang wasn't like this at the beginning. Chapter 5027. Emocien took Tang Wenwan to find Tang Guo. After a while, he found her riding a horseback, followed by a group of children. It was hard to imagine that a 7- or 8-year-old girl would be followed by a group of children who were older than her and were chasing after her on horses. Emocien touched his head and said, Sister Guo has replaced me as the king of the children. Now she is the boss of the children here. Tang Wenwan smiled and said, but those children are still afraid of you. They are afraid of me. If I don't beat them, I will be the one who is beaten. Emocien said. Tang Wenwan agreed and said, to deal with these people, whether they are adults or children, only by beating them can they not dare to bully you again. At this time, Tang Guo had stopped. She jumped down from the horse and ran to Tang Wenwan quickly. Mother, why did you come out? Do you want to ride a horse? Just ask that boy to lead the horse. Tang Guo pointed at Emocien. Mocien, okay, he will do all the dirty work. After all, he is a man. How could he care about this kind of thing with a little girl? Mother doesn't ride a horse. Tang Wenwan smoothed Tang Guo's hair and said, I just had a dream when I was taking a nap. I dreamed that I was back in the Central Plains. I feel that there are not many peaceful days left. Is that so? Mother, don't be afraid. Grandpa Mountain God is here. Whoever takes us away will be unlucky. It happened to pass by. When he heard Tang Guo's words, he almost tripped. If he hadn't experienced it himself, he would have thought that it was nonsense. How could there be such a thing in the world? Now all the people in the kingdom of Sarah believed in the legend of the mountain god. They even worshipped him as their god and wanted to be protected. In fact, their choice was right. Since they didn't disturb Tang Wenwan and the other two, Grandpa Mountain God didn't bother them anymore. This was good. Now, they didn't even have any thoughts of moving to the Central Plains. They were afraid that they would accidentally anger Grandpa Mountain God and let their horses run away halfway. Tang Wenwan took Tang Guo and Emocien back to the tent and said to them, if people from the Central Plains really come, we will be the same as before. Although you're good at martial arts, you are still young and haven't practiced martial arts for a long time. There are countless martial arts masters in the Central Plains. If you expose your martial arts, even if you're talented, they will still think that it is because of the secret martial arts manuals. They will think of all kinds of despicable means to force. Tang Wenwan warned, let's just follow them. When the time comes, Mother will find a way to instigate a fight between the martial artists so that they can't take care of themselves. Tang Guo smiled brightly Listen to Mother. One no was. Although Annie Tang looked weak on the outside, she was a troublemaker. Tang Wenwan said, "It's good that you can bear it. I plan to take the initiative to do something. There are ready-made animal skins here. I will make them old and engrave some maps on them. Then I will find a way to spread these maps to the martial arts world of the Central Plains. Recite those secret martial arts manuals for me. I have recently thought about it and changed the order. Let those martial arts masters take the maps to find these manuals and practice them. I don't plan to change the order from the first to the third level. I will change it later." Tang Gua and Mo Xian looked at each other. They both thought that Tang Wenwan had made progress. Chapter 5028. Tang Wenwan wanted to start something, and Tang Gua was happy to oblige. They first made the animal skin look old, and then drew a map on it. They had also thought of the location of the map. When they returned to the Central Plains, they would hide the altered martial arts secret manuals in those locations and let the people of the martial arts world fight over them until their heads bled. After they finished planning, someone from the Central Plains arrived. It was someone Tang Wenwan knew. They had met before, and it was the first prince of the martial arts world by E. "Miss Tang, long time no see. I heard you were taken away by Prince Abe of Cell Kingdom. I was worried about you. It's really hard to find a place like Serbia." Bai Yi smiled and said gently, "Miss Tang, come back with me. You've been through a lot." Abe was very polite to Bai Yi. He pretended to be afraid of him, but in his heart, he wanted Tang Wenwan to leave the grasslands. Every day Tang Wenwan was there. He felt very uncomfortable. Now, the people of Cell Kingdom were looking at him strangely. The grasslands are too big, and Cell Kingdom is always changing places. "It is hard to find," Bai Yi said, "but I have finally found her. Prince Abe, I'm taking Miss Tang with me. Are you okay with that? Miss Tang is from the Central Plains, and she is Hero Tang's daughter. It is only right that we take her with us. You heard a martial artist from the Central Plains and took her away. That is unreasonable." Abe looked at the martial artist behind Bai Yi. He was very happy, but he pretended to be scared. "Mr. Bai, stop talking nonsense. If you have brought so many people with you, then take her with you. Prince Abe is very straightforward. You know what to do." Bai Yi thought Abe was afraid of the martial artist he had brought with him. He thought that no matter how strong Abe was, he would still be scared. After all, this was his enemy's home. If a fight broke out, the people of Cell Kingdom would be at a disadvantage. "Miss Tang, let's go. The carriage is ready." Bai Yi smiled. His voice was as gentle as ever. Tang Wenwan nodded. She led Tang Gua and Mo Xian into the carriage. The three of them looked very weak. It was as if a rainstorm could take them away. Abu's mouth twitched as he looked at their weak and feeble appearances. His eyelids were still twitching. He had misjudged them. How were these three incomparably delicate people? They were clearly three wolves. Those who had their eyes on the three of them were the real sheep. Abe felt that he had suffered a great loss, so he also wanted the people of the Central Plains to continue suffering losses. Only then would he be able to vent his anger. So, he didn't tell Bai Yi about the mountain god, and he didn't tell him about the children's martial arts. He looked at the slowly moving carriage. When he saw that it was only a small black, a big smile appeared on his face. Oh. The people around Abu also cheered. "Let's have a party tonight to get rid of the bad luck of the past year." Abe smiled and said, "We won't go to the Central Plains anymore. The people there are too scary." Prince Abe is right. There is nothing bad about the Central Plains. At least there aren't people who are protected by the mountain god. They don't want to chase away our cows, sheep, and horses. Although Tang Gua and the others hadn't caused any trouble, they had been living in fear for the past year. They were afraid that one morning their cows, sheep, and horses would all be gone. Chapter 5029. Is there any news about Wan? Wenren Qin asked. Shang Qing said, "Yes. Bai Yi knows where Sire is. He's already there, waiting for news. I arranged for people to follow them, but I don't know if they'll be able to bring her back." A month later, Tang Wenwan returned to the Central Plains. Wenren Qin and Shang Qing received the news that the government had stabilized. Wenren and Shang-Qing left the palace to see Tang Wenwan. Tang Wenwan was living in Bai Yi's house. In the martial arts world, even if Wenren was the king, she couldn't attack them without reason. So, they went to see how Tang Wenwan was doing. Bai Yi didn't stop them, though. He arranged for many people to watch. When Wenren and Shang-Qing saw the elites, their hearts sank. Wenwan, are you okay? I've been worried sick for the past year. I've been sending people to look for you, but Sai Air is very hard to find. Wenren held Tang Wenwan's hand. She wanted to say that Tang Wenwan didn't look good, but she quickly swallowed the words. Tang Wenwan's face was red, and there was more flesh on her face. She wasn't as pale as before. Wenren then said, Wenwan, your complexion looks better. Shang-Qing, check Wenwan's pulse and see what's wrong. Wenren was still worried. Her sudden improvement wasn't necessarily a good thing. After checking her pulse, Shang-Qing said, Wenwan's body is much better than before. She's fine. Perhaps it's because of Sai Air's diet that she's getting better. If she was fine, Wenren stopped worrying. Wenwan, don't worry. I'll find a way to get you out of here. Qing, there's no need. I won't do anything. You're the king of a country. Anything you do will affect the government. Plus, I need you and Shang-Qing to help me with something. Just do it for me. Tang saw that no one was eavesdropping, so she didn't stop Tang Wenwan. Tang Wenwan took out a bag and gave it to Wenren. Then, she told them her plan. Wenren and Shang-Qing were shocked. They had always thought Tang Wenwan was weak, but she was scheming. Nuanyuan, don't worry. I'll definitely help you get this done. It may be very troublesome to save you, but it's too easy. Wenren thought that Tang Wenwan could scheme against people and felt relieved. From Tang Wenwan's complexion, it could be seen that she hadn't had a bad year. Wenren and Shang-Qing said goodbye to Bai Yi, and they went to carry out Tang Wenwan's orders. 10 days later, news of the treasure map spread throughout the martial arts world. It was said that the treasure map might contain something left behind by Master Tang. When Bai Yi heard the news, he went to ask Tang Wenwan. Tang Wenwan shook his head. I don't know where Dad's things are, and I've never heard of any treasure map. It's most likely fake. We'll know if it's real or fake once we bring back all the treasure maps. Bai looked at Tang Wenwan's face, but he couldn't tell anything. He left. Tang Wenwan really wanted to know what was going on outside, so she asked her maid about the treasure maps every day. She was just worried about the progress of her plan, but when Bai Yi heard her, he thought she was worried about who would get the treasure map. He thought the map really did belong to Master Tang. Prince Abe of the Kingdom of Serbia, who was far away in the grasslands, had also heard about the recent treasure map incident in the Central Plains. No, I'm not going. Abu quickly shook his head. I have a feeling that she's related to Hero Tang and Tang Wenwan, and it's not a good thing. They can go get the treasure map themselves. I'm not interested. On the other side, a couple was drinking tea in a tea shop. When they heard people talking about the treasure map, they started to whisper to each other. Could Master Tang really have left a treasure map behind? The pretty woman asked. The handsome man next to her shook his head. Impossible. Then what's going on? The pretty woman was confused. The handsome man said, maybe there's a misunderstanding. Maybe you should worry about your son. It's been so long. I'm sure he hates us. Isn't everything fine? He didn't follow that pretty girl willingly. How can I ruin my son's plans? Chapter 50-30. In less than a month's time, the martial artists fought each other to get their hands on the treasure map. Some came out in the open, while others came out to play tricks in the dark. Bai Yi wanted to get the treasure maps, so he didn't pay much attention to Tang Wenwan. Tang Wenwan asked her maids about the treasure maps every day. The more progress she made, the more certain Bai Yi was that the maps had to have been left behind by Hero Tang. Bai Yi had 2 treasure maps, but he didn't know how many he would be able to complete the map. But if he could get the maps, he would take them. Tang Wenwan had a lot of maps, and she asked Wenren and Shang-Qing to help her distribute them. She knew how people felt. If it was too easy, they wouldn't believe it. So, she made it harder. Just a few treasure maps were enough for the martial artists to fight over. Once all the maps were collected, there would be another fight. Bai Yi didn't have time to deal with Tang Wenwan, but Mo Xian's parents came looking for him. When Mo Xian saw them, he wasn't touched. His parents looked like they knew where he was, but they hadn't come looking for him. Mo Qing and Jiang Yu looked at each other and smiled awkwardly. They had known where Mo Xian was for a long time, but that was only because Mo Xian was safe. That was why they hadn't gone looking for him. If Mo Xian was in danger, they would have helped him. They couldn't let their son be in danger. Tang Gui sat to the side, sizing up this immortal couple. In the original storyline, Mo Xian had been captured by the Seamless Tower's Tower Master. He had no chance to leave behind a mark at all. He had been trained every day, and he had been thrown into the Snake Denver. He had no chance at all. In the end, Sheng Feng's favorite student didn't want to leave. Sheng Feng had caused him so much trouble, and he didn't want to leave so easily. So, he hid his identity so that the couple couldn't find him. In the end, Mo Xian didn't know if he had left with the couple. Xian Jiang Yu called out. Jiang Yu shouted, "It's not that mother didn't come to pick you up, but your father and I have been observing you from the side. We saw that you were not in danger and had a good time. So, we didn't want to disturb your fun." Mo Qing added, That's right. It's rare for you to come out and play. Dad and Mom are just worried that you won't have enough fun and will disturb you. Look, you have new friends now. Do you want to introduce them to me?" Mo Xian wouldn't believe their nonsense. Even if they told him in advance, he wouldn't be disturbed, right? As a result, he had left behind countless markings, thinking that they hadn't seen them. Mo Xian turned his head to one side, not wanting to talk to them. Clearly, they liked to play and felt that he was disturbing them, so they didn't come to find him. As for why he appeared now, it was most likely because he felt a little guilty in his heart. After having a good time, he finally remembered that he had a son. Jiang Yu and Mo Qing continued to look at each other, not knowing what to say for a while. At this time, Tang Wenwan said, "This is your fault. Xian has been talking about you. He said that he left many marks because he was afraid that you wouldn't see them. If you didn't come, how disappointed would a child like him be? Didn't he leave those marks because he believed that you would find him? You parents are too careless," Tang Wenwan said bluntly. Chapter 5031. Mo Xian was very close to her. Occasionally, he would say that it would be great if his mother was like her. Obviously, the couple didn't care enough about him. Mo Qing and Jiang Yu wanted to refute, but they suddenly found that Mo Xian's eyes were red. They shut up at once and didn't know what to do. Jiang Yu walked to Mo Xian and touched his head. "Well, it's my fault. I should have come to see you as soon as I found the mark. I'm also wrong. I shouldn't have listened to your mother. I should have come as soon as possible." Mo Qing quickly admitted his mistake. The attitude of the two finally made Mo Xian feel better. "It's a promise. There will be no next time." Mo Xian pursed his lips. "If there is a next time, I will ignore you. I will come to Aunt Tang and recognize her as my mother." Hearing this, Jiang Yu was really frightened. "No, there won't be a next time. I won't do such a thing in the future. I won't let you be taken away, okay?" It was the first time that Mo Xian had been apologized to by the two. He felt comfortable. "Okay, I'll forgive you this time." After dealing with Mo Xian, Jiang Yu and Mo Qing didn't feel good. Tang Wenwan's words made them understand that they had left their son aside because of their deep feelings, which seemed to have hurt him. The two of them decided that they must become qualified parents again. Even if they liked to get along with each other, they couldn't ignore their son. It was they who brought him into this world. They had to take the responsibility of his parents. "Come on, wipe it. You said that you were a man before, but your eyes are red." Tangwa handed Mo Xian a handkerchief. "Don't stare at me. Don't refute. Hurry up and wipe it. If you don't wipe it, your tears will leave a tear mark on your handsome face." Hearing this, Mo Xian didn't have time to refute. He quickly picked up the handkerchief and wiped it. Tangwa patted his head. "That's right. In fact, I won't laugh at you if you cry. You are all children. What's the big deal about crying? But I know that you're a person who cares about face." Mo Xian. This was great. He had lost all his face. "Xianer, do you want to come with us?" Jiang Yu asked hesitantly. She obviously felt that Mo Xian liked to stay with Tangwa very much. She had a hunch that Immerse was unwilling to leave. As expected, Immerse shook his head. No, I won't leave. I want to stay with Sister and Aunt Tang. My life belongs to Sister This time, Jiang Yuyu and Mo Qing were confused. Mo Xian explained it to them seriously. Hearing that their son had almost been trained as an assassin and was almost thrown into the 10,000 snake cave, the couple was frightened. They felt increasingly guilty and felt that they were not qualified. Although you're my parents, I'm already Guers. A man has to keep his word. I'll be by her side from now on. Jiang Yuyu and Mo Qing were in trouble. What should they do now? Father, mother, if you like to play, then go ahead. You just have to visit me occasionally. I don't blame you for what happened before. Aunt Tang also gave me a secret martial arts book, so my martial arts skills are not bad now. I'm only 10 years old now. When I'm older, my martial arts will be more powerful. You don't have to worry. When I'm more powerful in the future, I can visit you often. Jiang Yuyu and Mo Qing felt as if their son had married into someone else's family. It was a strange idea. Chapter 5032. Jiang Yuyu and Mo Qing didn't plan on taking Immerse away. If their son was willing to stay, they wouldn't do anything he didn't like. To make it up to their son, they decided to stay with the Bai family. They pretended to be a normal couple. Bai didn't care. The Bai family could afford 2 more people, and they were Tang Wingwan's friends. As long as they didn't try to take Tang Wingwan away, everything was fine. Recently, he had been busy with the map. He didn't have time to talk to Tang Wingwan. When he got the whole map and the treasure, he would deal with it. The beauty was already living in his house, so he wasn't afraid of her running away. Now that the whole martial arts world was concerned about the treasure map, Tang Wingwan's popularity had dropped. Tang Wingwan had a rare, peaceful life. Jiang Yuyu and Mo Qing often came to ask Tang Wingwan how to be a good parent. They had a good relationship. When Jiang Yuyu cooked for Mo Xian was shocked. He hadn't expected to be able to eat his mother's cooking. It's good, isn't it? My mother made it. Mo Xian shared some of the snacks that Jiang Yuyu had made with Tangwa. If you like them, I'll ask my mother to make more tomorrow. Tang chewed on the snacks and thought, my mother taught your mother to do this. He's showing off in front of me. But she remembered that the kid had been lacking in this area before, so she didn't expose him. She just watched him show off. Every day, there was news about the martial arts world. As more and more treasure maps appeared, there were more and more fights in the martial arts world. In the beginning, it was just a simple fight. At most, there would be blood. Now people would die. The martial arts world is still the martial arts world. Just one treasure map is enough to make people fight over it. I don't like it here, Jiang Yuyu said. Fortunately, we aren't interested in it. Mo Qing said, well, I don't know what the treasure map is about. Mo Xian looked at Tang Wingwan and then at Tangwa. He glanced at his parents, who were in the middle of a heated discussion. He didn't tell them the secret. 3 months later, many people in the martial arts world had secretly collected the treasure map. Tang Wingwan didn't know how many copies had been collected. She only knew that Bai Yi had gathered everything, and he was already on his way. Another conflict has begun, Mo Qing said. Mo Xian, when you find out that it was Aunt Tang who did it, you'll be shocked. Half a month later, Bai Yi returned. He didn't look well. The map he'd been given wasn't Great Hero Tang's treasure map. There were only some secret martial arts manuals in the place he searched. Because there were many people who had gathered the map, he only took back one secret martial arts manual. The rest was divided among the other people in the martial arts world. Until now, those people were probably still fighting over it. After Bai Yi received the book, he didn't start practicing. He just flipped through it. It was obvious that this secret martial arts manual was still not enough to attract him. In the past few days, he had been showing his presence to Tang Wingwan. It seemed that he was planning to get the secret of Hero Tang's treasure here. Tang Wingwan had been studying a book of poison recently, which was given to her by Tangwa. She also asked someone to buy a lot of medicine because of her body, which was quite effective at present. But Bai Yi kept bothering her every day. He kept asking her questions, and it annoyed her. Do you know where Brother Hengzhou went? Tang Wingwan shook her head. I don't know. Do you want me to go to Carefree Villa with you? Maybe we can find some clues there. Chapter 5033. Tang Wenwan agreed to take Bai Yi back to Carefree House. She wanted to go back, too. After all, that used to be her home. Hangzhou had been missing for many years, and no one had heard anything about him. Had he really been taken by Grandpa Mountain God? The day they returned, Tang Wenwan saw Bai Yi with a group of people. She looked glum. "Mr. Bai, what is the meaning of this? There has been no news of Brother Hangzhou. Carefree House can't be left unattended. I am taking some people with me to take care of the house." Tang Wenwan understood. Bai Yi was going to take people to search for treasure. Bai Yi saw that Tang Wenwan didn't want to go, so he smiled and said, "Grr," and the kid are already in the carriage. Was he threatening her? Mo Qing and Jiang Yuyu were pretending to be a normal couple, so Bai Yi didn't suspect anything. They followed Tang Wenwan, and he didn't stop them. When they returned to Carefree House, Tang Wenwan didn't want Bai Yi to go in. But Carefree House wasn't what it used to be. There were only a few servants inside. Bai Yi went in, and he arranged for people to guard every corner of the house. They started to search every nook and cranny of the house. Bai Yi also grabbed a few people and asked them where Hero Tang and his wife's grave was. When Tang Wenwan heard this, she exploded. "Bai Yi, don't go too far. My parents' grave only contained some personal belongings. There was no treasure. You'll know when you see it. Don't worry, Wenwan. After I see it, I'll bury it back." Tang Wenwan was so angry that her eyes turned red. Tangua grabbed her hand and comforted her. Bai Yi laughed. He followed the people around the rooms, especially Hangzhou's room. He wanted to look around. "This is the first Mr. of Wulin?" Jiang Yuyu mocked. "Digging up someone's grave? Brother Qing, we can't just stand by and do nothing. Hero Tang was a hero. We can't let him die in peace. Yes, if he really digs up the grave, we'll kick him out." Although they wouldn't have a peaceful life if they did that, they couldn't just stand by and do nothing for the sake of a peaceful life. "Why don't you try it out later?" Tang Wenwan said. She went to the room and took out a short sword. "You can use this sword first. When you grow up, Mother will find you a better one." Tang Gua held a short sword. This sword was indeed more suitable for her to show off her figure. Tang Wenwan pulled out a medicine bottle from her pocket. "I'm going to put some poison on this. It's not a deadly poison, and it's easy to force it out of an expert's body. This poison will make your skin itch. Be careful and try to cut Bai Yi." Mo Qing Jiang and Jiang Yuyu stared at Tang Wenwan's instructions with their mouths agape. Perhaps Tang Wenwan felt their gaze and said, "Do you two need it?" The two of them hurriedly shook their heads. They didn't need to use these things in a fight. He didn't expect Tang Wenwan to have such a side. No wonder he didn't seem to be at a disadvantage. Tang Wenwan carefully applied some poison to Tang Gua's dagger. Bai Yi's actions had really pissed her off. She wished she knew martial arts, so she could take his life with her own hands. When Bai Yi took his people to the grave of Hero Tang and his wife, Tang Wenwan took a shortcut and blocked Bai Yi's path. "Wenwan, don't be stubborn. I'll ask someone to dig up the grave. If there's nothing there, I'll let Hero Tang rest in peace." Chapter 5034. Bai Yi, you're the first master of the martial arts world, yet you're digging up someone's grave. If this gets out, people will laugh at you, Jiang Yu said. "You'd better leave Carefree Villa now. Otherwise, we'll see who's stronger." Bai Yi saw that Jiang Yu was holding a sword, and it looked as if she wanted to fight. "I was wrong. I did not expect you to know martial arts. Let me tell you this. If you know what's good for you, pretend you didn't see anything today. That way, you won't suffer." Jiang Yu was very angry. She was going to fight, but Tang Gua stopped her. "Annie Jiang, let me go first. I've been practicing for so long, and I haven't used my real skills yet. I want to see how much I've improved." Jiang Yu hesitated. Tang Gua was only 10 years old, and she was afraid something might go wrong. "Why don't you let Gua go first?" If Tang Wenwan said that, Jiang Yu wouldn't refuse. But she still looked at Bai Yi with caution. Her martial arts were better than Bai Yi's, and she hadn't thought much of Bai Yi. They didn't fight because they didn't want to get involved in the martial arts world conflict. She hadn't expected Bai Yi to go so far. She was cautious because she was worried that Tangwa might be in danger. But when Tangwa jumped toward Bai Yi, she was shocked. Was this really a boy who wasn't even 10 years old? How could she be so strong? She hadn't noticed that before. Mom, don't be so surprised. Sister Gua is a martial arts genius. She is the one in a million, Mo Xian explained. She is much stronger than me, who is one in a million. She is that talented? Mo Qing was shocked. After the shock, he suddenly realized maybe she inherited Hero Tang's talent. Mo Qing was right, but there had to be a reason why Tangwa was so strong. Bai Yi was shocked, too. Tangwa was just a little girl, and she was so strong. His eyes flashed with passion. So, Tang Wenwan should have something that belonged to Hero Tang. Even if it wasn't much, if he got it, he would be able to rise above the martial arts world. As long as he caught this little girl, Tang Wenwan would definitely be obedient. At that time, why would he be afraid of digging the grave? In Bai Yi's dream, Tang was sword slashed toward his face. Bai Yi tried to dodge, but he looked like a mess. He was still a bit scared. Little Nuwa couldn't be underestimated. I've decided to be serious. I don't want to hurt you, but you seem to be very dissatisfied with me. In that case, I can only take action. You talk too much. Bai Yi's face froze. He raised his fan and started to attack Tangwa. Tangwa was very agile. She didn't want to waste time, so she used her speed to cut Bai Yi. The onlookers were frozen, especially Bai Yi's white clothes. They quickly turned red. Bai Yi had a bad feeling about this. This little girl was very strong. He didn't want to believe he couldn't beat a little girl, but that was the truth. No matter how he attacked, she was able to dodge. But when she kept attacking, he couldn't dodge a single hit. Her sword was so fast that she could have sliced his neck, but it seemed like she was toying with him. I didn't expect you and your mother to be so good at hiding things. We will have plenty of time in the future then. Bai Yi was scared. He turned around to leave, but Tangwa wasn't going to let him. Mo Xian stopped him. When Mo Xian heard Tangwa's call, he put on his gloves. His fists were itchy. He ran in front of Bai Yi and punched him in the nose. Then he punched Bai Yi in the head. Bai Yi was dizzy from the impact. Bai Yi's body was still itching, and he accidentally fell to the ground. You want to dig up my grandpa's grave? Tangwa walked over and stepped on Bai Yi's chest. Why don't you take a piss and look in the mirror? The former #1 young master of the martial arts world is now a cripple. After that, Tangwa destroyed Bai Yi's martial arts. She broke his meridians, making it impossible for him to practice martial arts. No one had time to react to what had just happened. Tangwa ran back to Tang Wenwan. Mother, in the future, we will be the masters of Carefree Villa. You see, I can easily defeat him. In this martial arts world, how many people can be my opponent? When Tang Wenwan heard that, she started to cry. Chapter 5035. In less than 3 days, the news of the first master of Wulin, Bai Yi, being disabled spread like wildfire. According to the people who were there, Bai Yi had been defeated by a little girl who wasn't even 10 years old. That little girl was Tang Wenwan's daughter. At first, many people didn't believe it, but Bai Yi admitted that Tangwa's martial arts were very strong. He told everyone that she must have learned the martial arts that Hero Tang had left behind. Otherwise, how could a girl who wasn't even 10 years old beat him? Everyone believed Bai Yi's words. Soon, people from all over the world of Wulin gathered. They planned to go to Carefree House to fight Tangwa. If they wanted Carefree House to fight Tangwa, they needed a good reason. So, they made a fuss about Tangwa's kung fu. They said she was practicing demonic arts. If that wasn't the case, how could a little girl break Bai Yi's kung fu, who had been practicing for 20 years? All you need to do is spread the news that she uses boys and girls to practice demonic arts. Some of the neutral factions in Wulin will have to come and fight her. Bai Yi spoke from his wheelchair. Now, he didn't look like the first mister. His face was dark, and his expression was twisted. He gritted his teeth as he spoke. It looked like he hated Tangwa to the core. He had been in Wulin for many years, and he had never been beaten like this before. And he had been beaten by a little girl who wasn't even 10 years old. How could he accept that? So, that little girl must have practiced demonic arts. That was why she was so good at kung fu. Hero Tang had collected a lot of martial arts manuals, and there might have been one of them. A few days later, the entire Wolin was talking about how Tang Gua had practiced demonic arts. That was how she had defeated Bai Yi. Not only had she defeated him, but she had also destroyed his kung fu and broken his veins. To do something so evil, she had to have practiced some demonic arts. As time passed, the rumor spread. Even Prince Abe, who was far away on the grasslands, heard the news. I don't know if it is demonic arts or not, but I do know that whoever messes with her will not have a good ending. He ordered his subordinates to be more vigilant. When transporting goods, they must not have anything to do with the people of the martial arts world. Especially that little girl. We can't afford to offend her, Abe said cautiously. There was still some lingering fear in his eyes. If he had dared to do anything to Tang Wenwan, he would have ended up worse than Bai Yi. This Bai Yi is such a scumbag. Tang Wenwan had been researching poisons recently. Ever since she took charge of the Carefree Mountain Villa, she no longer had to be afraid of the outside world. Her days were completely peaceful. She couldn't practice martial arts, so she put all her energy into developing poisons. She hoped that one day, even if she did not have martial arts, she would be able to use these poisons to defend herself, and no one would dare to humiliate her again. She had never asked about the affairs of the Wolin, but she had inadvertently heard the maids discussing the matter of Tang Gua practicing the devil arts. Only after calling the person over for questioning did he learn the ins and outs of the matter. Mother, let them say what they want. These people are tarnishing my reputation just to use it as an excuse to punish me. In their hearts, they actually believe that I had the secret martial arts manuals hidden by my grandfather. Although they spoke of benevolence, righteousness, and morality, they were all greedy people. They were the kind of people who wanted to be a whore, but still wanted to build a monument to their chastity. Tang Wenwan was angry, and she didn't care how Tang Gua had learned to be so rude. Chapter 5036. If the whole Wolin unites to deal with Carefree Villa, you can't beat everyone with your fists. The poison I developed now is not poisonous enough. How can I help you? Mom, don't worry. I'll solve this matter right away. I promise they will be obedient and won't dare to make trouble. If they make trouble again, I'll go there twice more. Tang was sat in the chair and tapped the table with her fingers. I just received the news that those people are going to choose the leader of Wolin in order to suppress me. Tang Wenwan was even more worried when she heard that. She wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Tang Gua. I'm going to take people down the mountain tomorrow to deal with this matter. Then let's go together? Tang Wenwan also felt that this matter needed to be dealt with. Although the poison she developed was not poisonous enough, it could help. It was the Wolin that couldn't tolerate them. If they could survive in this world only by being evil people, she could also be an evil person. Red envelope. Reading benefits are coming. You have up to 888 cash red envelopes to be drawn. Follow Weishin's public account to draw red envelopes. Since Mom wants to go, I'll take you with me. Tang Gua felt that Tang Wenwan should go down the mountain to get some fresh air after staying in Carefree Villa for so long recently. She also asked the system to observe her father's situation. It was said that after the other party got the secret book of martial arts, he secretly hid in the mountain and practiced hard every day. He appeared once a year to see Tang Wenwan. Tang Gua asked someone to send him a letter before, telling him not to worry about Tang Wenwan's situation and to practice hard, so he didn't come out again. Immerse knew that Tang Gua was going down the mountain tomorrow, so he quickly came to find her. Sister Gua, you have to take me with you. Silly boy, you are my follower. Of course, I have to take you with me. Immerse was relieved when he heard that. He quickly gave the snacks in his pocket to Tang Gua. My mother has just developed it. Have a taste. Tang Gua ate a piece and felt it was good. Mo Qing and Jiang Yu have always lived in Carefree Villa. Tang Gua specially allocated a yard for them to live in and told them to stay as long as they wanted. Because of Mo Xian's previous experience, the two of them felt that they owed him too much. As such, the two of them gave off fatherly and motherly love every day surrounding Mo Xian. The next morning, Tang Gua went down the mountain. other than Mo Xian and Tang Wingwan. Mo Qingjiang and Jiang Yuyu also went with them. Although they knew that Tang Guo was very good at martial arts, even better than them, they were still a little worried. They were also very curious about how Tang Guo would deal with this matter. In the carriage, Tang Guo was flipping through a booklet. Seeing her reading so seriously, Tang Wingwan asked, "Guo, what book are you reading?" "Mother, I'm not reading a book." "What's that?" Tang Wingwan asked curiously. Guo was like a little adult. As a mother, she still needed her daughter to protect her. She felt a little ashamed. Tang Guo replied, "This is a list of the people we're going to visit next." "A list?" Mo Qing and Jiang Yu also looked at each other. "What list?" They only knew that this little girl was super powerful. Now she took over Carefree Villa. Last month, she summoned her to Carefree Villa in the city and beat all the shopkeepers. Now Carefree Villa seemed to be gradually prosperous again. It did not decline because of the disappearance of Eternal Boat. This is the list of the people who agreed to elect the chief of Wulin and unite the people of Wulin to suppress me. Today, we will visit the Chens first. The Chens are the closest to here. Let's go to Master Chen's place. I will reason with him and tell him not to mix with those Wulin mobs. Chapter 5037. Tang Wingwan said, "I'm afraid they won't listen. Few people are not tempted by the treasures left by your grandfather." "Then I'll talk to him nicely. Patriarch Chen will definitely agree," Tang was said firmly. Tang Wingwan was not optimistic, but she supported her daughter's decision. What if there were a few people in Wulin who still had a conscience? Mo Qing and Jiang Yu felt that things were not simple. Mo Xian knew that things were not simple. Reason? He didn't think that Tang Guo was simply going to reason. When they arrived at the Chen's house, what Tang Guo did proved his guess. Coming out of the Chen's house, Tang Wingwan couldn't help touching Tang Guo's head. "Guo, is this what you mean by reason?" He didn't listen and didn't know what to do, so I had to beat him up. Tang Guo wiped her hands. "Mom, let's go to the next house." Mo Xian was still holding a box, which was the compensation for Tang Guo's mental reputation and mental damage from the Chen's house. Mo Qing and Jiang Yuyu's eyes were twitching. This little girl was really powerful. No wonder their son was willing to be a follower and didn't want to go back with them. Seeing that the boy was willing and admiring, the couple felt that they could never take their son back in this life. This little girl was less than 10 years old, and she was already so powerful. What would happen when she grew up? The second house that Tang Guo went to was the Zhang's house. Patriarch Zhang knew that Tang Guo was powerful, but he didn't understand why she came to visit in person. "Patriarch Zhang, I'm here to tell you one thing. I'm talented, but I don't practice the so-called magic arts. Don't blindly participate in the Wulin Alliance leader meeting." Tang was sat in the chair with a strong momentum. It was hard to believe that she was a little girl less than 10 years old. Sitting beside her was actually a 10-year-old young master. Sitting further away were Tang Wingwan, Mo Qing, and Jiang Yuyu. This combination looked very strange. There were clearly adults here, but the one making the decision seemed to be a child. Zhang Jiazhou still didn't look at Tang Guo. Instead, he looked at Tang Wingwan. "Miss Tang, how can you bear to let a little girl less than 10 years old practice demonic arts? What you're doing is too cruel. Do you know how many young boys and girls have to be sacrificed to cultivate the demonic arts?" Tang Wingwan laughed when he heard this. This laugh was extremely sarcastic. The roots of the people in the martial arts world must be rotten. For the sake of her father's secret martial arts manuals and treasures, she actually slandered a child who was not even 10 years old. If it weren't for Guo Er's extraordinary talent, she would have fallen into someone else's hands and led a miserable life. Previously, she had thought that it was a bit too much to visit them one by one and beat them up. Now, she felt that she had not gone overboard at all. In fact, she had gone a little too easy on him. "Guo, do whatever you want. No matter what you do, Mother will support you." Tang was stood up. "Okay." She walked in front of Zhang Zhu, and under Zhang Zhu's incredulous gaze, she slapped him on the mouth. "You really don't know how to talk. Just seal it up." Zhang Jiazhou wanted to resist, but he didn't expect that Tang Guo would directly hit his acupoints. Other people also wanted to come up, but Immerse had already come to Tangwa's side to help her block the attackers. Imo Qing and Jiang Yuyu were used to this pattern. As long as the two were safe, they would not intervene. Tang was slapped Zhang Jiazhou many times. Do you think you can really deal with me by joining forces? If you're not afraid, just come. If you want my grandfather's treasures, just say it. You even framed me for using young boys and girls to practice demonic arts. If I hear you say this again in the future, I will sew your mouth up. It won't be as easy as beating you up. You slandered me and caused me to lose my reputation and spirit. Hurry up and compensate me. Otherwise, I will sew your mouth up. Chapter 5038. The head of the Zhang family thought that Tangwa wouldn't dare, but Tang Wenguan gave her a needle and thread. When he saw the embroidery needle in Tangwa's hand, he gave in. He had to pay for Tangwa's loss and watch her leave with a swollen face. Tangwa followed the order of the list and went to each family. 3 days was enough time for everyone in the martial arts world to learn of Tangwa's whereabouts. The families that hadn't been harmed by Tangwa all went to Bai Yi. After all, Bai Yi was the one who had suggested that they join forces to fight against Tangwa. Bai Yi was silent, too. He couldn't think of a solution, but he still said, I can only say that her personality changed after she started practicing the demonic arts. Now that she dares to bully us, you can imagine what kind of life she will have in store. Bai Yi's words made the martial arts people worried. Yes, if Tangwa was invincible, there wouldn't be a place for them to live. Before they could come up with a plan, Tangwa came. What else do you want to do? As soon as the martial artists saw Tangwa, they shouted impolitely. In fact, they were also afraid of her. Tangwa slowly walked inside. She saw the people holding their weapons and looking at her with fear. She smiled. They were so cowardly, and they still wanted her grandfather's treasure? Bai Yi, I spared your life, but you didn't know what was good for you. Now you are spreading rumors and ruining my reputation. Bai Yi was calm, but if you looked closer, you could see the hatred in his eyes. He wanted to strangle Tangwa. Because of Tangwa, he had become a useless man. Now, he had to use the other martial arts people to deal with her. If you don't want people to know, don't do it. You practice the demonic arts, and who knows how many children you have killed. You have done evil, and you cannot be forgiven. We are martial arts people, and we have to work together to fight against you, which you had done a lot of evil recently. It proves that practicing the demonic arts has changed your personality. If you still have a shred of conscience, you'd better cripple your own martial arts as an apology. Tangwa laughed. You're a useless person, but you're still quite good at dreaming. She walked in front of Bai Yi. The martial artists around Bai Yi tried to stop her, and so did Bai Yi's subordinates. Just as Tangwa was about to make her move, someone else came from outside. She turned around and saw that they were two neutral factions in the martial arts world. The cultivators of the Flying Immortal sect were all Taoist priests. They usually didn't participate in the struggles of the martial arts world and had their own small circles. They weren't interested in the treasures of Tangwa's grandfather. The Clear Heart sect was a Buddhist sect. Like the Flying Immortal sect, it didn't participate in any fights. Unless it was necessary, these two sects would not step in. Young benefactor, please have mercy. Don't do evil again. Master Xianxiang took 2 steps forward. He was in front of Tangwa in a flash. He placed Bai Yi and the others behind him. Before Tangwa could speak, another person appeared in front of her. She was dressed like a Taoist priest. It was the leader of the Flying Immortal sect, Su Lingyi. Are you two here to stop me? Tangwa asked. Xianxiang and Su Lingyi looked at each other and nodded. Su Lingyi said, there are enough problems in the martial arts world. Little girl, you should just let it go. There is no need to kill everyone. Oh, did I kill a single person? Tangwa asked back. Did these two have nothing better to do than to eat their fill and come here? Su Lingyi frowned. Are you going to deny what you've done? Chapter 5039. My favorite thing to do. Tangwa looked at Su Lingyi and Xianxiang. You think I'm doing evil, and that's why you're here, to stop me? Xianxiang smiled and nodded. Yes, little benefactor. You are very intelligent. You should stop doing evil. If you want to say that I'm evil for beating them, then they deserve it, Tang was said coldly. Su Lingyi said, then what about the fact that you're using virgin boys and girls to practice? Isn't that evil? Tao Su, when have you ever seen me use virgin boys and girls to practice? Have you ever heard of a family losing a virgin boy or girl? Are the two of you brainless, or do you only have pig brains? You believe whatever others say without any evidence? I beat them up because they slandered me. They damaged my reputation and my spirit. I'm here today to solve this problem. I heard that it was Bai Yi who spread this rumor. You know that I have a grudge against him. I'm here today to ask him why he's spreading this rumor. And you too. You don't know what's right or wrong. You don't have any evidence. You just come up and slander me. The two of you have damaged my spirit and my reputation. You two think I'm doing evil today, so you're here to stop me. But why didn't you see them when they were doing evil? When they were bullying an orphan and a widow, why didn't you stand up for them? My mother is a weak woman who doesn't even have the strength to trust a chicken. Just because of my grandfather's illusory treasure, she's being robbed by these people. Why don't you come out and stop her? They can bully a weak woman, and I'm just trying to get justice for myself. I just beat them up, and they're not going to be nice. These people have done a lot of evil to steal martial arts manuals. Why didn't you stop them? It's because they bully the weak and fear the strong. It's because there are so many of them that you're afraid. What do you mean you're an elite? What do you mean you don't care about fame? I heard that the Flying Celestial Sect has a lot of martial arts manuals and books. Look at how many people in the martial arts world need them. Why don't you give them to them? There's also your Clear Heart Sect. Don't you also have some absolute arts of the Clear Heart Sect? Since Master Xuanxiang is so benevolent, why don't you contribute all of your Clear Heart Sect in order to settle the dispute in the martial arts world as soon as possible? Su Lingyi and Xianxiang were speechless. Today's matter has nothing to do with your two sections. Mind your own business. Speaking of which, all the sects present here have made things difficult for my mother. It is only right and proper for me to seek revenge from them. What are you still standing there for? Get out of the way. Tang's words stunned everyone, especially Xianxiang and Su Lingyi. They simply couldn't refute it. They really couldn't produce evidence that she used virgin boys and girls to practice martial arts. As for what Tang was said about Tang Wingwan, their ears were red. They really adhered to the principle of less trouble than more trouble. Tang Wingwan alone could not change the general trend of the martial arts world, so they did not ask. After being pointed out by her, they wished they could find a hole to crawl into. After hearing Tang's roar, they subconsciously moved away from her. Emotion quickly ran over and squeezed the two out of the way. He walked with Tangwa. I will deal with Bai first. Are you going to protect him? Tangwa looked at the martial arts people. When the martial arts people saw that Su Lingyi and Xianxiang had moved away, they quickly moved away as well. If the two of them couldn't do anything about it, they couldn't offend Tangwa for a cripple. Tangwa walked in front of Bai Yi. Bai Yi quickly called for his men to stop her, but they couldn't stop her. Tangwa sealed their pressure points. She walked in front of Bai Yi and sealed his pressure points too. You said that I used virgin boys and girls to practice martial arts. Where's the evidence? Bai Yi said stubbornly. Why would you leave evidence? That's what you did. Mo Xian silently handed an embroidery needle to Tangwa and threaded the thread. When Bai Yi saw this, his pupil shrank. What's she doing? I think it would be better to sew your mouth shut. Chapter 50-40. Everyone thought Tangwa was just trying to scare Bai Yi. Even Bai Yi thought so. There were so many people there, and they couldn't just stand by and watch Tangwa do something so evil. Little miss, why do you have to do this? If you can forgive someone, you should forgive them. You're so strong now. Why don't you let go of your past hatred? There is no need to kill them. Xianxiang didn't want to see what was going to happen next, so he tried to persuade her. Tangwa stopped and looked back at Xianxiang. Then let me ask you something. Can you give away all of Clear Heart Sect's books, and even your home to everyone in the martial arts world? If you can't, then don't say anything. Keep your mouth shut and don't be so generous. Xianxiang looked troubled. Everyone was looking at him strangely, and he felt his face burn. His lips moved, but he didn't say anything. Su Dao leader, what do you think? Xianxiang couldn't say anything to Tanghua, so he turned to Su Lingyi. But he was disappointed. Su Lingyi shook his head. He didn't know what to do. If you two want to stop this, you have to give your sex books to the martial arts world. If you want me to forgive him, why don't you ask the entire martial arts world to forgive my mother? Tang's words made the two of them unable to move. They could only watch as she stabbed the needle into Bai Yi's lips. Bai Yi screamed in pain, but he couldn't move. The others could only watch, but no one tried to stop her. I'll talk. When Tanghua finished 2 stitches, Bai Yi couldn't take the fear anymore. He started to moan. I don't want to hear it anymore. Tanghua kept stitching. She didn't even blink. She was very slow, and no matter how much Bai Yi begged, it was useless. If I hear anyone say anything bad about me and my mother again, I will sew their mouths shut just like you. Coming from a little girl who wasn't even 10 years old, it was scary enough to make everyone's scalps go numb. And those of you who keep talking about morality and telling me to be kind, I'm telling you to give away all your wealth to help the poor. That's the only way you have the right to say something like that. And what about revenge? Who said something like that? Why don't you try it? Let your disciples be killed by others, and you don't care? If you can do it, then say it again. Xianxiang, and Su Lingyi understood that the last sentence was meant to mock them. To be honest, they had lived for decades, but they had never suffered such a great loss in the hands of anyone. A little girl who was not even 10 years old had actually rendered them speechless. However, her words indeed made them not dare to say anything more, because they couldn't do what she said. Tang was sewed up Bai Yi's mouth. The needle and thread were very close, and it was very neat. It was like a work of art. If you like coming to crusade against me, then go ahead. But before you come, you have to think about what your purpose is. Is it really because I'm practicing demonic arts? Or do you want to defeat me and obtain the secret martial arts manuals in my hands? Even if you get the book, you won't be able to practice it as well as I have. There are geniuses in this world, but there are also idiots. Mother, let's go back. Tang Wingwan held Tanghua's hand and said, Okay. No one dared to stop Tanghua. In fact, they were already thinking about retreating from the fight against Tanghua. After Tanghua left, everyone unsealed Bai Yi's pressure points. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.